The rain hit without warning, heavy, biting, and loud. Nia Washington stood under the faded umbrella of her small roadside stall, shielding her Puffpuff and Ginger Zobo bottles from the storm. Her hands trembled, not from the cold, but from the ache of remembering, a deep wound that had never healed since that phone call changed everything. Once her world was warm, secure. A miracle she never believed someone like her, a black orphan girl from the inner city, could have. But miracles don't last forever, at least not for girls like Nia. Nia, a neighborhood woman, called out, ducking under her nylon raincoat with a toddler on her hip. 2 packs of chin-chin, please, before this rain drowns us. Nia forced a smile. I added extra, on the house. The woman chuckled. See your good heart, Nia. Always giving. As Nia handed over the snack packs, her eyes caught a glimpse of a sleek black SUV rolling by. Low, slow, and shiny against the backdrop of muddy streets. The license plate was custom, the tires untouched by dirt. A car like that didn't belong on this block. She didn't flinch, not anymore. Cars like that never stopped for people like her, at least not since the one that had 3 years ago. Back then, she was still frying Puffpuff on the corner. One afternoon, she looked up to find a man standing in front of her makeshift stall, hands folded, grinning like a boy who just escaped prep school. He was tall, black, broad-shouldered, dressed in joggers and a crisp white tee. His fade was fresh, his beard clean, and his smile disarming. I'm not leaving until you give me your number, he said. She rolled her eyes. I sell Puffpuff, sir. I don't sell my number, he laughed. You sell happiness. That first bite almost brought tears to my eyes. She fought her smile, but it won anyway. So what, you came back to write a review? He leaned against the wooden counter. No, I came to marry you. Her jaw dropped. Excuse me? I'm Jordan, and I'm serious. He wasn't lying. Jordan Lewis came back every day, sometimes with friends, sometimes alone. He helped her pack snacks, chased flies away from the Zobo bottles, and walked her home to the orphanage every evening. His hand always gently wrapped around hers like she was something precious. Don't mind what people say, Nia, he whispered one night beneath the mango tree by the orphanage gate. You grew up without love, but you still know how to give it. That's rare. I want to be your everything. She didn't respond, just stared at him with tears caught in her lashes. Jordan's rich family didn't understand their bond, didn't try to. His mother, Vivian, sat on her mansion's velvet couch like she ruled a kingdom. She gave Nia one look and said, You sell snacks? Yes, ma'am, Nia replied gently. Vivian turned to Jordan with a scoff. This is who you've chosen? A girl from the street? Jordan's jaw tightened. Her name is Nia, and I love her. His father, Walter Lewis, remained silent behind his glasses. That silence said enough. Even Jordan's sister Tanya muttered under her breath, She'll never last here. But Jordan married Nia anyway. Love didn't make things easy, but it made them warm. Jordan was her protector, her peace. Before she even told him she was pregnant, he'd already painted a guest room in soft yellow and set up a crib. He read parenting books, made burnt toast with pride, and rubbed her back when she couldn't sleep. You're spoiling me, she'd say. That's the plan, he'd answer with a grin. But no matter how sweet he was, the mansion never truly welcomed her. The staff nodded with cold detachment. Vivian never spoke unless she had to. Whispers followed Nia in the halls. Tanya made it clear she wasn't family. Still, Jordan held her close at every dinner, every function, whispering, Endure it for us, for our baby. Then it all crumbled. She was 5 months pregnant when Jordan kissed her goodbye that rainy morning. I'll be back tonight, he said, pressing his lips to her belly. Take care of our little warrior. She laughed, waving as his black car rolled through the gates. Later that afternoon, while frying plantains, the landline rang. No one ever called that phone. She answered with her elbow. Is this Mrs. Jordan Lewis? Her heart skipped. Yes? A pause. Then, there was an accident. Abuja Highway. A black Mercedes. Same plates as your husband's. I'm sorry. He didn't make it. The line went dead. The spoon fell from her hand. Oil popped around her feet. Then she screamed. They didn't even wait 2 weeks after the funeral. Nia still wore black, her eyes still swollen from crying every night into the pillow they once shared. But Jordan's family had already decided her time was up. It started with Tanya's whisper, loud enough to carry down the marble hallway. She doesn't belong here anymore. Vivian didn't bother whispering. She never did. Nia heard. Every word. She stood quietly in the stairwell that night as Vivian handed her a brown envelope stuffed with cash and crisp instructions. There's a driver waiting. He'll take you anywhere you want. Nia's voice trembled. This was Jordan's home, mine too. Jordan's gone, Vivian said coldly, and now so must you. They watched her walk out. No apology, no goodbye. Just the rain, the gate, and a belly too heavy for her small frame. Nia stood in front of the mansion one last time. The wind tugged at her headscarf. Her fingers clutched the envelope. She whispered to the sky, "You promised me a forever." But forever had already ended. She returned to the only place that had ever welcomed her, the streets. She set up her old food stall again, right where it used to be. Her belly now round and proud. She still fried Puffpuff, still lined up her meat pies, still stacked her bottles of chilled Zobo like trophies of survival. That evening, a black SUV pulled up beside her stand. Its headlights cut through the misty air. The tinted window rolled down and a deep voice called out, rough and impatient, "Got anything hot? I'm starving." Nia blinked. She didn't flinch. She'd faced worse. "Yes," she replied, standing tall. "Yam balls, meat pie, and warm Zobo. Puffpuff's cold, though." "Cut the talk. Pack 2 yam balls. Quick." She moved fast, bagging the food in trembling hands. Not from fear, something else, something unfamiliar, power. She'd built her life from the ashes. She wasn't afraid anymore. "That'll be 1-200, she said, handing over the bag. The man gave her a look like she'd asked for his car keys. "Only got 1,000. "I'll remove 1 yam ball," she said flatly. He blinked. Then unexpectedly he laughed. A deep, rich sound that cut through the storm like a beam of sunlight. "Are you for real?" he said. "This is how I eat, Olga. Snacks ain't charity." He shook his head, still amused. He reached for his wallet and pulled out 2,000. "Keep the change." She stared at the crisp notes, surprised. "Thank you," she said quietly. He paused, eyes now more curious than annoyed. "You always stand here?" "Every day," she said. "Rain or shine." He looked around, at her soaked canopy, her rusted umbrella, her worn sandals. "You're wasting something," he muttered under his breath. "What did you say?" "Nothing." He waved it off. "Just talking to myself." "You keep doing that and people will think you've gone mad." That made him chuckle again. A flicker of something human crossed his face. "I'll come again tomorrow. If you're still here." Then the SUV rolled off into the storm, disappearing like a ghost in the rain. The next evening, the rain hadn't let up. Nia stood by her stall again, the green edges of her wrapper damp from the rising puddles. Her sales had been slow, barely, a few meat pies gone all day. Mama Keisha, her stall neighbor, had already packed and left, muttering about the weather. But Nia stayed. She stayed because, deep down, she was hoping. Not for customers, but for that same black SUV. And just as she was about to close for the night, it appeared again. Quiet. Smooth. It pulled up right beside her stand and idled. The window slid down. "You got any meat pies left?" The same deep voice asked. This time, less bark, more calm. "Only 2, she replied. "I'll take both." She handed them over, expecting nothing more. But instead of driving off, he reached toward the passenger seat and held out a brown paper bag. "What's this?" she asked, eyes narrowing. "Food. I passed this spot near Surulere. Thought maybe you could use something warm too." "You brought me food?" she asked slowly. He shrugged, casual. "You looked cold yesterday." She took the bag hesitantly, her fingers brushing his. "You're not trying to sell me insurance, or nothing, are you?" That made him laugh, louder this time, a deep, real sound. "Nah, I'm Musa, just a man who appreciates good puff-puff." She tilted her head. "Nia." A moment passed between them, quiet and unexpected. "I eat late. A lot," Musa added. "Might as well eat here again tomorrow, if that's okay with you." Nia looked at him closely this time. His beard was cleanly lined, his voice firm but not harsh. His eyes, tired, but not cruel. "I don't mind," she said. The SUV pulled away once more, and Nia stood there alone with the paper bag warm in her hands, wondering what kind of man brought dinner to a roadside vendor and left without asking for anything. The next morning, Lagos was still wet with yesterday's tears. The red-brown mud clung to slippers and tires, and the sky threatened more rain. Still, Nia got up early. Her belly was heavier now. Her feet ached more, but she wore her green wrapper proudly and tied her bun tight. She lined up the puff-puff, the meat pies, and the Zobo bottles in neat rows, even wiped down the chin-chin jars twice. Just after 10, she saw the familiar SUV. It rolled up slow like it had nowhere to be but here. Her heartbeat picked up. She grabbed a clean towel, wiped her hands, and stood straighter. The tinted window slid down again. "You again?" Musa said with a half-smile. "Let me guess. Puff-Puff still undefeated?" She grinned before she could help it. "Better today. I added a little ginger. Customers like the extra kick. 5 Puff-Puff, 2 meat pies, and don't be stingy with the Zobo." She packed the items carefully, ignoring the twinge in her back. She handed the bag to him with both hands. "Do you always come this way?" she asked. "Lately, yeah," he replied, resting an arm on the door. "Estate inspections." She nodded. "Well, business is booming." He looked around, at the rusted tray, at the plastic chairs, at the fraying canopy. "You ever think of expanding?" Her brows rose. "Expanding? Yeah. Bigger spot. Better location. Somewhere with shade. Real chairs. You'd sell more." She blinked. "You've thought about this?" "I have." Nia didn't know what to say. No one had asked her about her future since Jordan died. No one had cared. Not until now. She felt the lump rise in her throat and turned quickly to rearrange a jar, hiding her face. Musa noticed the shift in her energy, but said nothing. Instead, he pulled out a wad of cash, much more than the cost. "That's too much," she said, voice cracking. "Let me worry about that." The window rolled up. The SUV drove off. But this time, Nia wasn't left with emptiness. She was left with hope. The visits became routine, not every day at first, but often enough to notice. Every other day, then nearly daily. Sometimes Musa arrived in the late morning, sometimes just before sunset. Always the same, quiet SUV, same clean scent of expensive cologne, same calm voice ordering puff-puff or meat pie. Sometimes both. He didn't linger long. Never asked invasive questions. Never acted like he was doing her a favor. But he noticed things. How Nia's steps had slowed. How her hand always hovered protectively over her round belly. How she winced occasionally when rising from her stool, but covered it with a polite smile. And Nia, though she'd never say it out loud, started looking forward to those visits. There was something about Musa that steadied her. He didn't speak with pity, he didn't pretend to save her, he just saw her. Not as Jordan's widow. Not as the girl forced out of a mansion. Not even as a vendor. Just Nia. At night, she'd lay on her thin mattress in her one-room shack, belly firm under her palm, listening to the distant chaos of Lagos. Barking dogs, shouting neighbors, rattling, Kekenapep. But her mind would drift back to the silence inside Musa's car, the way his voice slowed when he spoke to her, the way his eyes softened when he listened. Lagos wept with her. Its skies stayed gray, its air stayed thick, but inside Nia something was shifting, a flicker, a stirring. She didn't hear the SUV roll up that rainy afternoon. She was lost in thought, frying Puffpuff, her face focused, her spirit far away. It was his voice that brought her back. Naya. She turned, startled. Musa stood outside the SUV, umbrella in one hand, dressed in a dark caftan. The drizzle had started, gentle but persistent. "You'll catch cold," he said. "Come sit in the car, just for a bit." She hesitated, looked around. Business was slow. No one else was around. Something in his tone, not commanding but calm, made her nod. She wiped her hands and followed him, sliding into the front seat. The warmth hit her instantly. So did the silence. For a while neither of them spoke. The rain tapped softly against the windshield like a lullaby. Musa glanced at her. "You're strong," he said quietly. "But I've been wondering. You're pregnant. You stand out here, every day. Where's your husband?" Nia's breath hitched. She didn't answer right away, just stared at the streaks of water racing down the glass. Then her voice came, soft but steady. "He's dead." Musa turned to her slowly, surprised. "I'm sorry. I didn't know." "It's okay," she whispered, her eyes glistening. "It's been 2 months. His name was Jordan. A car crash. Abuja Highway. He told me he'd be back by nightfall." Musa didn't interrupt. He let her speak. "We were married for 7 months," she continued. "His family, they never wanted me. Said I was trash. I grew up in an orphanage in Ibadan. They said girls like me didn't deserve men like him." She laughed bitterly, eyes distant. "His mother wore black to our wedding, said it was like watching a funeral." Musa clenched his jaw but stayed silent. "Jordan loved me, though. He made me feel seen, safe. Even when the house was cold, when the whispers followed me, he made me feel warm." She paused and placed her hand over her belly. It moved gently under her touch. "When he died, they threw me out the same week. Told me I didn't belong there. I had nothing. Nowhere to go." Musa stared at her, stunned. "So you came back to the street?" She nodded. "I knew how to survive here. I had to survive for my baby." There was a thick silence between them, but this time it wasn't heavy, it was reverent. Musa leaned back against the seat, shaking his head in disbelief. "You amaze me," he said finally. "Most people would have crumbled, but you got back up, and you're still standing." Nia blinked away tears. "Not because I want to, because I have to. I know strength when I see it," he said quietly, "and yours humbles me." She looked at him, really looked at him for the first time, not with guarded suspicion but with gratitude. And something more. He didn't press her, didn't try to fix her pain, but his presence said enough, that she wasn't alone. Not anymore. The rain had slowed to a drizzle. Droplets streaked softly down the windshield, each one catching the fading light like silver threads. Inside the car, it was quiet, but not awkward. It was the kind of silence that wrapped around two people who understood pain, who didn't need to fill the space with words. Nia sat with her hands gently resting over her belly, her story still hanging in the air like the scent of fried Puffpuff, cooling on the counter outside. Musa hadn't said anything in minutes. He just watched her. His fingers curled around the steering wheel, his brows faintly furrowed, like he was thinking deeply about something he didn't quite know how to say. "You're something else," he finally spoke, voice low, full of quiet awe. "The way you carry everything, with grace, with no one helping." Nia turned slightly toward him, her eyes red but calm. "I'm sorry I cried," she said softly. "Didn't mean to dump all that on you." "Don't apologize," Musa cut in gently. "You needed to let it out." Another soft pause. He tapped his thumb against the wheel, then turned to face her more directly. "Nia," he began, "I've been thinking, ever since I tasted your Puffpuff, and that jollof you gave me the other day." She gave a small smile. "I remember. You're a really good cook, like, really good." She blushed faintly and wiped her nose with the tissue he'd handed her earlier. "Cooking is all I've ever known. It helped me survive." He cleared his throat. I want to offer you something. A job. She blinked. A job? He nodded. As my cook. She looked stunned. I've got a big house in the estate, he continued. Too many rooms, too much silence. I don't like strangers in my kitchen. But your food? Nia, it tastes like comfort. Like home. She hesitated. You want me to cook for you? Every day? Yes. He said firmly. I'll pay you triple what you make here on a good week. You won't have to stand in the sun or wait for customers in the rain. You'll cook in a proper kitchen at your pace in peace, and you'll get a steady income. She glanced down at her belly. Her voice came quieter. But I'm pregnant. I don't know if I'll... That's exactly why I'm offering, he said, cutting in more urgently now. You shouldn't be out here like this. You've already been through so much. Let me help. Just a little. Her lips parted slightly, stunned. Why would you do that? He hesitated. His gaze was steady. Because you deserve it. Because people like you shouldn't suffer for being strong, and because I want to. Nia didn't speak for a long time. Her mind flashed through too many memories. Jordan's laugh, Vivian's disgust, the orphanage halls, the cold nights, on a thin mattress. And now this, a man she barely knew offering her dignity, not pity. A chance, not charity. She looked at him then. Truly looked. Behind the sharp jawline and clean beard was something else, a quiet sincerity. A man who didn't pretend. A man who saw her, not what the world said about her. I don't know what to say, she whispered. Say yes. A single tear slipped down her cheek, but it wasn't from grief. It was the first drop of hope. The morning sun painted the cracked streets gold as Nia wiped her stall clean for what felt like the last time. When Musa's black SUV pulled up, it wasn't just another customer pulling over, it was something else entirely. He stepped out in a clean white shirt and gray slacks, calm as always, but there was a quiet urgency to his movements. He opened the door for her like she was royalty, like she wasn't just a roadside vendor anymore. She got in silently, rubbing her belly out of habit. The ride to his estate was quiet, not the nervous kind, the thoughtful kind. When the gates opened, Nia's breath caught. They were tall, silver-lined, guarded by thick barbed wire and trimmed hedges. The compound beyond was nothing short of a magazine spread. Smooth pavement, flower beds in neat rows, a sprawling cream-colored mansion ahead. As the SUV rolled into the compound, the guardhouse door flew open. Out stepped Uncle Darnell, a lanky older black man with weather-worn skin, a loose polo shirt, and a crooked red cap that looked like it had survived the Civil War. The moment he saw Nia in the car with Musa, his eyes lit up like Lagos nightlife. Oga Musa, so you done finally marry? Musa chuckled as he stepped out. No, she's not my wife, she's my friend. She's helping with things around the house. Uncle Darnell squinted at Nia, unconvinced. Friend ki? Oga ne soide start. Oh, I see the smile. I see the glow. Love day enter this compound. Nia blushed hard, hiding her face. Musa just laughed and waved it off. Just help her settle in, he said, grabbing her bag. No wahala. Uncle Darnell gave a salute. Auntie, Nia welcomed to paradise. Inside the mansion was another world. High ceilings stretched above marble floors that shimmered like wet glass. The air was cool and still, the kind of stillness that money brings. Musa led her past two lounges, a study and a staircase that curved like it belonged in a film. He stopped at the guest room door, turned to her gently. This is your room. I had it cleaned this morning. If you need anything, just ask. The door swung open to reveal a spacious, soft-lit room. A queen, bed with crisp white sheets, beige curtains floating in the morning breeze, a vanity, a small TV. Peace. Nia stepped inside slowly, her mouth slightly open. This is more than I expected. You deserve peace, Nia, Musa said from the doorway, even if it's just for a little while. Her eyes shimmered. She turned to face him. Thank you, Musa. I didn't think anyone would care this much. He gave her a quiet look, steady and kind. You've been strong for too long. You remind me that kindness still exists in the world. Rest now. You'll start tomorrow. Today you just breathe. She nodded, tears pricking her lashes. He stepped out and gently closed the door behind him. Naya sat on the edge of the bed, her hands resting on her belly. For the first time in so long, she didn't feel hunted. She didn't feel judged. She didn't feel alone. For the first time in forever, she felt safe. The rooster's crow was faint in the distance. Soft rays of morning sunlight filtered through the cream-colored curtains of Nia's guest room. Her eyes blinked open slowly. She didn't wake from tears, or fear, or nightmares. She had slept all night. Her hand instinctively found her belly. Now, 7 months round, the little one inside kicked softly in greeting. Nia smiled gently, pulling herself up. Her green nightgown shifted as she moved, the fabric brushing against the cool tiled floor. She washed her face, tied a headscarf over her bun, and padded quietly toward the kitchen. Today was her first day as the cook in Musa Carter's home. The kitchen was nothing like the roadside stall she'd worked for years. Wide granite countertops, shiny stainless steel utensils hanging in perfect rows, a deep gleaming sink. The pantry was fully stocked, ripe plantains, fresh vegetables, tins of palm oil, labeled spice jars, meat neatly packed in the freezer. The air smelled of lemon polish and expensive silence. She exhaled, rolled up her sleeves. Then she got to work. She was frying yam and stirring porridge when Uncle Darnell strolled in barefoot, his red cap already slanted over one eyebrow. He whistled like he'd just walked into heaven. "Ah, Madame Nia, you done wake?" She gave him a warm side glance. "Just food I sabi cook, Uncle D. I no be magician, oh." He clapped his hands with joy. This house never smelled this sweet in years. Oga no even know it and he done invite. She laughed. "You better shift from my back before I burn this food. First day no fit carry disaster." The teasing between them flowed like palm wine, light, joyful, full of ease. Uncle Darnell, who rarely spoke more than 3 words at a time, was already talking too much, and Nia was laughing again. By the time Musa walked in, dressed in a tailored navy blue, native outfit, beard neatly trimmed, the entire house smelled of home. "Good morning," he said, stepping into the kitchen. Nia turned and smiled. "Good morning, sir." Uncle Darnell waved his hand from the corner. "Oga leave that sir matter, she be family woman now. No be stranger again." Musa chuckled. "I'm just respecting her hustle." He picked up a spoonful of steaming yam. Porridge blew on it and tasted it. His eyes closed slowly. He didn't speak right away. When he did, it was with a soft sigh. "Nia, you have magic in your hands." She turned slightly, bashful. "I'm glad you like it." Musa ate quietly at the dining table. Before leaving, he stood at the door and smiled. "I'll be back before sunset." Days turned into a rhythm. Nia cooked, cleaned lightly, walked slowly through the backyard garden Musa hadn't touched in years. Her touch brought life to it. She planted herbs near the wall, rearranged the flower pots, watered the hibiscus like it was therapy. She shared stories with Uncle Darnell while chopping vegetables, listened to Afrobeat playlists while marinating goat meat. She began to notice the small details about Musa, how disciplined he was, how he never raised his voice, how his clothes were always perfectly ironed, how, even after long days, he'd return with calm eyes and a gentle, "How was your day, Nia?" And he never looked at her with pity. That, more than anything, began to melt her walls. One late afternoon, the sun dipped low, casting warm orange light across the backyard porch. Nia sat peeling oranges into a silver bowl, her belly rising, like a mountain. Uncle Darnell strolled over, chewing sugarcane as usual. She turned to him casually. "Uncle D, your Oga. I just wonder how person like that go, they live alone inside house way big past sense." Uncle Darnell's chewing slowed. He looked around, lowered his voice. "Madam, no be my mouth you go hear the full story from." She smirked. "You, this man, always forming mystery." He exhaled and leaned back. "I done work with Oga Musa since before this house even get foundation. Over 25 years, from when he be small boy. That man, he get good heart. Very good, but something happened. Since then, am heart no open again." Nia sat up. "What happened?" Uncle Darnell scratched his head. "That one no be my story to tell. If you go hear him na from him own mouth." She nodded slowly. "I go wait. When he ready." Uncle Darnell chewed again, nodding with a sly grin. "You get wisdom. Real peace don enter this house since you step inside. Maybe you be the healing this place they wait for." Nia looked toward the tall mansion walls glowing in sunset. She didn't say anything, but deep in her chest a seed was blooming. Peace. A word she hadn't known in years. Maybe, just maybe, it had finally found its way to her. By the time Musa returned that evening, the compound had already gone dark. His headlights swept across the driveway as the SUV came to a stop. Uncle Darnell waved from his usual post near the gate, but Musa only managed a tired smile in return. The day had worn him down. Inside, the house smelled like a goosey soup and fresh pounded yam. Nia stepped out of the kitchen in her simple wrapper and headscarf, her belly now prominent and round as she moved carefully toward the dining area. "Good evening, Musa," she said, her smile warm. He smiled back, more genuinely this time. "Evening? Nia, it smells incredible. Food is ready," she said, gesturing to the dining table already set. Musa washed his hands and took a seat. Nia served the steaming egusi with soft, fluffy pounded yam and poured a cold glass of water beside his plate. The chandelier light glinted off the polished ceramic as Musa took his first bite. He paused, closed his eyes, then exhaled deeply. "God bless your hands." Nia chuckled softly and sat nearby, watching him eat with quiet satisfaction. When he finished, he wiped his mouth, stood up and said, "Come on, let's watch something. I downloaded a Ruth Kadiri film. She never misses." Nia laughed lightly. "You in these movies? You act like they're your second job." "They keep me sane," he replied as they moved to the sitting room. They settled into the soft cushions of the large sofa. The air was cool, the room cozy. The TV flickered with Nollywood drama, but neither of them truly watched it. Musa kept sneaking glances at Nia, her posture, the way she rested one hand on her belly protectively, how peaceful she looked. Then, as if pulled by a thread, he turned toward her more seriously. "Nia," he said gently, but she interrupted, her tone playful yet firm. "Wait, before you say anything, answer me something first." He blinked. "Okay? What's wrong with you?" Musa raised a brow, caught off guard. "What do you mean?" "I mean," she said, now studying his face, "you're rich, you're kind, you're clean, respectful, smart. You run your own business. You look like a Nollywood leading man. So why are you living alone in this giant house like a monk?" The question hung in the air for a moment. He sighed, turned down the volume on the TV, leaned forward, elbows resting on his knees. His voice lowered. "I was married once." Nia's teasing vanished. Her eyes softened. "I was 28. Her name was Halima," Musa continued. "We were together for 7 years. Had 3 kids, or so I thought." Nia held her breath. "One day our youngest fell seriously sick. Needed a transfusion. I offered mine, but the blood didn't match. The doctor was confused, so he ran a DNA test." Musa stopped, rubbed a hand down his face. "The child wasn't mine, not even close." Nia gasped quietly, her hand covering her mouth. "I didn't believe it. So I asked for tests on the other 2. He paused again. "They weren't mine, either." Silence. "I thought I was cursed," Musa said bitterly. "Thought maybe I wasn't man enough. Maybe she lied all along. I went for my own medical tests. Turns out I have a very low sperm count, almost infertile. They said with medication, therapy and surgery, maybe. But by then, my whole world had already fallen apart. Nia's heart ached. Musa. I divorced her, he said. She took the kids. Well, not mine, but I still love them. He looked at her, his eyes glassy but steady. That was 3 years ago. Since then, I just poured everything into work. Work can't betray you. Work doesn't lie to your face. Nia leaned back into the couch, overwhelmed by the vulnerability he'd just shared. I'm sorry, she whispered. Musa shook his head. And then here you are. After all, you've faced, pregnant, alone, still working, still smiling. I don't know how you do it. I don't know either, she said, voice trembling. After Jordan died, I didn't have a plan. His family threw me out like I was trash. I didn't even have a blanket. Just this baby. I had to survive. There wasn't another choice. They sat in silence, the movie forgotten, the room dim with evening shadows and soft breaths. Then, without a word, Musa reached for her hand, held it gently, like a man who knew how easy it was to lose. Everything. You're strong, Nia. Stronger than you know. She looked at him, her tired eyes filled with something between pain and gratitude. So are you. And in that moment, the silence wasn't empty. It was full of understanding, of mutual pain, of two hearts, not healing completely, but at least starting to, together. Morning light slipped through the gauze curtains of Musa's living room, casting soft streaks across the tiled floor. Nia stood in the kitchen, tying her wrapper securely above her growing belly. She stirred a pot of ogbono soup, the aroma thick and comforting. She glanced toward the living room. Musa sat quietly on the couch, sipping his tea. His eyes looked distant, not from stress, but reflection. Nia stepped in with a smile and a warm plate. Have you thought about it? Musa looked up, already knowing what she meant. He exhaled. Nia, I've thought about it. But hospitals. He trailed off, rubbing the back of his neck. Not really my thing. She sat across from him, patient but firm. You're brave, Musa. But brave don't mean you carry everything, alone. He didn't respond right away. She reached forward, placed the food in front of him, and gently touched his wrist. You deserve healing too. The next day, Nia tried again, this time outside, watering flowers. Musa walked out in his casual polo shirt, adjusting his wristwatch as he prepared to leave for work. Nia looked up. This baby they kick like footballer today. She laughed softly. Clinic even give me one small card to track the movement. Musa smiled faintly. That's good, she added casually. You know say it go better if you see doctor too. Sometimes. He dey look like we dey find but body dey hide things. He chuckled. You be nurse now? She grinned. I be everything for this house. And so it went. For 5 days. Gentle nudges, sweet persuasion. One day she brought him a fruit plate. You go just a chop oranges, but no one let doctor check you. Another day, while folding laundry, she murmured under her breath, if anything happened to you tomorrow, who go look after me in this bell? Each word was like water on dry earth. On the 5th day, Musa walked into the kitchen while she was kneading dough. He stood there for a moment, then said softly, I'll go. Nia turned surprised. You serious? I'll go, he confirmed. But only if you come with me. The next morning, they drove together to a clean private hospital in town. It smelled of antiseptic and soft lavender. The halls were quiet and polished. The reception area was calm and professional, nothing like the overworked, crowded clinic Nia had once visited in her past. Musa checked in. When the nurse called his name, she added, for confidentiality, only a wife or direct family can enter with the patient. Musa glanced at Nia, hesitating. She's with me, he said. The nurse shook her head. We understand, sir, but unless she's listed as your wife or next of kin, she'll need to wait outside. Naya gently touched his arm. It's okay. I go wait. You'll be all right. He nodded and disappeared into the hallway. Nia sat on the hard metal bench, rubbing her stomach slowly. Nurses moved past her in quiet rushes. She exhaled deeply, her mind racing, not with fear, but hope. Not for herself, but for him. Over an hour passed. When Musa reappeared, his eyes looked tired but calm, like someone who'd faced something difficult and didn't back down. He didn't say anything, just reached for her hand. Together, they walked toward the exit, but just before they reached the door, Musa stopped. Let's go back in, he said. Nia looked at him, confused. Huh? I spoke with the doctor. I told him how far gone you are. He said since your clinic is far, and you're almost due, it's best you register here. He even said they've got one of the best maternity wards in the city. Nia hesitated. This place go cost money. Musa turned fully to face her. And you don't deserve the best? She opened her mouth, but no words came. You've been carrying everything since Jordan died, Musa said, voice low and steady. Selling snacks, pregnant, working in rain, crying alone, cooking for me like you got no burden. You've never asked me for anything. Let me do this, please. Her eyes welled with tears. She nodded silently. They turned back inside. The maternity nurse smiled warmly and led her into the consultation room. Musa waited just outside the door. When she emerged, her face was glowing. Baby. They fine, she said. Heartbeat strong. Doctors say everything clean. Musa gave a small smile. Good. On the ride home, neither said much. But it wasn't the silence of strangers. It was the silence of people who had faced something big. Together. That night, while stirring a pot of stew in the kitchen, Naya hummed softly. Musa watched her from the living room, one arm resting on the back of the sofa, a soft smile playing on his lips. There was something in the air that hadn't been there before. Not just warmth, not just gratitude, something new, something like the very first stirrings of love. The evening sun cast long shadows across the polished floors. Nia sat gently on the settee in the living room, her swollen feet stretched out in front of her, a scarf wrapped around her head and shoulders. Her body ached from the weight of late pregnancy, but her spirit felt lighter than it had in years. Musa entered from the hallway, his hands tucked into his pockets, his steps relaxed, but measured. He looked at her for a moment, before settling, beside her on the couch. So, she said, tilting her head. What did the doctor say? Musa exhaled and leaned back. He confirmed the diagnosis, low sperm count, not zero, but very low. Been that way for a long time. Nia's expression softened. He said it's treatable, Musa continued. Therapy, medications, health changes. It'll take time, though. Nia reached over and placed a hand gently on his arm. That's something, Musa. That means there's still a chance. He looked at her, his gaze warm. Only reason I even went was because someone wouldn't leave me alone about it. She laughed lightly. I'm serious, she said, sitting up straighter. You're going to eat better now, no skipping meals, no more late-night stress. I'll handle your food personally. Musa nodded slowly. I believe you, she smiled. This baby and I, we're going to be your in-house chefs. Later that night, she waddled into the kitchen to finish prepping dinner. She was dicing vegetables when Musa appeared at the doorway. I told you to call me when you're cooking, he said. She rolled her eyes. If you touch that stove, you'll burn everything. Sit down. But as she reached down to grab a pot from the lower shelf, she winced suddenly and grabbed her side. Musa was at her side in seconds. Stop, let me help. I'm fine, she insisted, though her breath was unsteady. He gently took the pot from her and placed it on the counter. She stared at him. What? He asked. You're the first man to ever help me like this, she said softly. Get used to it, Musa replied. You're not alone anymore. Their eyes met. The moment stretched. Dinner that night was simple: okra soup with pounded yam and steamed ugu. Musa ate slowly, savoring each bite. "You really are a blessing," he said mid-meal. Nia smiled. "I'm just doing what any good woman would." Later in her room, Nia struggled with the zipper on her maternity dress. Her bump had made it impossible to reach behind her back. She muttered under her breath. Zipper. A knock. "You okay?" Musa's voice. She opened the door slightly. "Can you help me? Just don't laugh." He stepped inside, moved her braids to the side gently, and zipped the dress up. His fingers brushed the bare skin of her back. Her breath caught. Neither said anything. "Thank you," she whispered. "Good night, Nia," he said, stepping back. "Good night, Musa." The next morning, Uncle Darnell caught Musa outside, kneeling to help Nia slip on her slippers. Ah, Darnell called out, hands on his hips. "Oga Don turn husband. You dey wear madam's shoe now." Nia burst into laughter. Musa chuckled, too. "Mind yourself, Uncle D. No love day worry you," the old man mumbled, walking back to his post. That afternoon, Nia tried to mop the hallway while Musa was out. But when he returned and caught her red-handed, he took the mop straight out of her hand. "What are you doing?" "I just wanted to clean. The cleaner won't be here until tomorrow." "This is not your job," he said firmly. "You're carrying royalty. Feet up. Rest." She chuckled, her heart glowing. That evening, Musa handed her a bowl of sliced fruits: papaya, watermelon, banana. "All good for you and for me too. You're enjoying this babying thing, aren't you?" she teased. He smirked. "Maybe. But I enjoy having you around even more." She blushed, her eyes falling to the floor. Something had shifted between them. Something new, gentle, unspoken. Musa reached out and touched her hand, just briefly. "Thank you for being here." Nia looked up. Their eyes locked, and in that moment the silence between them said more than any words ever could.